Locked On Podcast Network presents Locked On Sports Today.
The Detroit Lions offense woke up in week 4 against the Seattle Seahawks. The Tennessee Titans picked up their first win of the year against the Dolphins. And the Mets had a dramatic entry into the postseason rather than a dramatic collapse.
I'm Peter Bukowski, starting your day with the can't-miss stories and biggest debates in sports. You're Locked On Sports Today.
Searching all major sports. Found.
Let's start with the biggest story.
If you were wondering where the Detroit Lions' dynamic offense was for the first 3 weeks, they found it on Monday night in Detroit. A 42-29 win over the Seattle Seahawks. Jared Goff. This is not a typo. I'd like triple check this. 18 for 18 for 292 in this game. Matt Derry from Locked On Lions always has a perfect passer rating himself. Jared Goff came up about 3 points short of that one. Matt, what was the difference in this one for this Lions offense that we expected to look much better than it had?
Well, I mean, I think that it definitely helped that Seattle had 4 starters missing on that defense. I will say this, Lions without Frank Ragnow, their center, one of the best centers in the game. You and I talked months ago about how valuable he is, but guys stepped up. Coyote Iwoshika, the left guard, played well. Graham Glasgow at center. They ran the football to start the game again. Back-to-back weeks, they've established the run. Then that led to the play-action passing game. And finally, we got to see Sam Laporta a little bit. Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jamison Williams, they used all their weapons tonight, and it was just too much for Seattle to overcome. But Lions defense has some work to do to kind of get some things cleaned up during the bye week.
Yeah, and I'm wondering about this because obviously they destroyed Seattle's defense in this game. But we're looking at, you look at the box score and you go, okay, Sam Laporta, 4 for 53, Amon-Ra St. Brown, 6 for 45. I know he had a touchdown and then threw one just for good measure. But that's not what we were accustomed to seeing last year. They were heavy target shares to Amon-Ra St. Brown and Sam Laporta. Is this part of a reorientation process for this offense around Jamison Williams? Because it does seem that way, at least through the first month.
I just think they're trying to find their footing. I don't think Jared Goff has played his best football yet. I know tonight was his best game by far. I think there was a little bit of rust early in the season. I think defenses now are starting to scheme more toward Amon-Ra St. Brown. And eventually I think Sam Laporta will be 100% and they'll find him more. I think they're just spreading the football around. And in their 3 wins, they've run the ball successfully. That Rams game in the overtime in week 1. Last week against Arizona where they needed a ground and pound and did with Montgomery. And the same thing goes tonight. When you've got Gibbs and Montgomery putting those kind of yards, on the ground together, it might take away a little bit from the other guys. And that's okay because they're winning the football game. And that's what they did tonight.
You mentioned the defense. The offense was ruthlessly efficient in this game. Seattle, 516 yards of offense in this one. The first team really all season to run the ball effectively on the Lions. What's going on the defense? Because they invested on that side of the ball, particularly in the draft. And it looked like there were some good early returns there. What happened on Monday night?
Yeah, Terrion Arnold has 8 penalties the first 4 weeks. He's not bad. Like, here's the thing. He's right there. It's not like he's getting burnt. It's not Toast Patterson here. It's just a matter of the hands. He's just very handsy. And as a rookie, you're going to get that flag. They really missed Brian Branch on Monday night. He's been out with an illness. I think he's got the same thing I have. And that's a big loss for them. That's a big drop off from Brandon Joseph to Brian Branch. So little things. I think they got to find another edge rusher opposite of Aiden Hutchinson. They're searching right now with Marcus Davenport out, but they did enough tonight to get the win.
Yeah, the flu game performance from you right now, Matt Derry, legendary stuff. We appreciate it as always, of course. As we look around the NFC, though, the Minnesota Vikings, impressive performance at Lambeau Field on Sunday, but the 49ers don't seem to be themselves. Seattle had a surprise 3-0 start, but the Lions get this impressive win. Are we looking at a Lions team that right now is the best team in the NFC?
I mean, how can you argue against Minnesota though right now? And our buddy Luke Braun is probably doing a dance, but they're playing great complimentary football.
He doesn't know what to do with himself.
No, he doesn't. Although I did say on our NFC North preview that I thought Minnesota would be better than people think, but I didn't think they'd be 4-0. You have to give Kevin O'Connell and Brian Flores a tremendous amount of credit. It is so early, Pete. I mean, people are writing off San Francisco because of all the injuries. Certainly people are writing off Philly already. People are propping up Washington. This thing is wide open, but the Lions feel good because at 3-1, they get a bye. Then they go to Dallas, who might not have Micah Parsons. And if they can win in Dallas and get to 4-1 and be healthy, I think they feel like they're back where they should be.
Stay up to date on the Detroit Lions all year long by subscribing to Locked On Sports Today and Locked On Lions on your favorite podcast app and on YouTube. Thanks for making Locked On Sports Today your first listen. Coming up, the Titans finally won. Before we get to the Will Levis of it all, the Diamondbacks were pushed out of the playoffs. Hey, NFL fans, you can start the season with a big return on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and much more on the same page where you place your bets. You'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. And you can place that bet on some early week 5 lines. Following a big win over the Saints, the Atlanta Falcons are 1.5-point favorites over the Bucs this Sunday. The Texans host the reeling Bills. They're favored by 1.5 in Houston. If you aren't interested in good football, you could check out the over-under for Raiders Broncos, which is currently set at 36.5. And I think that's probably still too high. So what are you waiting for? That's FanDuel.com to get started. Are you watching Fox Sports or ESPN on your TV all day? Have to turn down the volume with all that shouting? Make the switch to Locked On Sports Today, a free 24/7 sports streaming channel programmed for you every day to bring you the biggest stories without all the screaming. Locked On Sports Today brings you can't-miss analysis, opinions, and news, streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. The Arizona Diamondbacks season is over. The D-backs needed the Braves to lose both games of their doubleheader versus the Mets in order to clinch the final spot in the Major League Baseball playoffs, with the series split, pushing last year's runner-up out of the race.
The D-backs season and their postseason hopes has officially come to an end. And honestly, the more I think about it, the more choked up I want to get. Guys, I am sad. I am frustrated. I'm in disbelief. The D-backs season, which was so up and down, right? The first half, terrible. The second half, amazing. D-backs were riding high the second half. That was true until the month of September, where the D-backs just collapsed and didn't do enough the final week to make the postseason, and went 2-5 in their last 7 games and blew that 8-0 collapse to the Brewers last week. Like, the D-backs had so many opportunities in the month of September and this whole season where they could have added more wins to their resume. And now you're looking at a 88, 89 win team. I don't even know their exact record at this point. #1 run scoring team, 89 wins, #1 run scoring team in Major League Baseball. And they're on the outside looking in of the postseason. And the D-backs have no one to blame but themselves.
Pete Rose, Major League Baseball's hit king, who was later banned from baseball for betting on it, passed away on Monday afternoon. He spent 24 years in the majors and won 2 World Series titles with the Cincinnati Reds.
My name is Jeff Carr. His name is Steve Offenbaker. We are lifelong Cincinnati Reds fans with over 12 years of experience podcasting about this team. And we have heard countless stories. I know Steve got the chance to watch kind of the latter part of his career being a player manager for the Cincinnati Reds. I've heard so many stories about Pete Rose through my dad, and just wanted to remember the hit king here today as news has broke that he has passed away at the age of 83 here on Monday, September 30th, 2024. We're going to look at really what he meant to this organization, what he meant to the Cincinnati Reds, what he meant to the city, what he meant to us. Me not getting the chance to having watched him, but so many stories about him and what he meant to baseball as a whole for us. And quite frankly, I want to hear from you. What is your favorite Pete Rose memory? And look, we know that he was a controversial figure off the field. We are not going to talk about that a lot. We are not judges. We are baseball fans, and we know what he did on the baseball diamond and what he meant to the city. And what he meant was he was the hit king. He is the all-time leader in hits for Major League Baseball, for the career of anyone. And it's a record that I don't believe that will ever be broken. I know that there is a lot of records in Major League Baseball that will never be broken, and even he got the chance to get as close as he could to Joe DiMaggio's record. But I mean, Steve, for me, like the hit total of 4,256 is not something anyone will ever touch.
Dolphins quarterback Tua Tagovailoa could return from injury soon. According to Adam Schefter, Tua has been symptom-free following his Week 2 concussion against the Bills, meeting with a neurologist with a return in mind. A number of prominent former players and NFL analysts called for Tua to at least consider retirement following yet another head injury. He apparently has no plans to do so. And Jalen Duren knows ball. The Pistons center gave our Locked On Pistons show a shout out during a Monday press conference.
For me, my biggest thing was just being able to compete with them.
Nice shit.
The Titans finally did it. Not just win a game, they did do that. They beat the Dolphins 31-12 on Monday night. No, it's been over 1,000 days, 1,002 to be exact. It's the last time the Tennessee Titans scored 30 points, a 31-12 win. Locked On Titans host Tyler Rowland is ready to strike up the band. Tyler, an offensive explosion. Mason Rudolph, no, not really. only 244 yards, but a critical win for this team with questions now at quarterback, question mark?
You know, we could talk about the quarterback situation because I certainly have a take there. But yeah, it had been over 1,000 days since the Titans scored 30 points. That is incredibly embarrassing to say, but the streak is over thanks to Brian Callahan and the run game. And, you know, let's be honest, the JV Miami Dolphins, like this Miami Dolphins team is in complete disarray right now. And the Titans, who aren't a very good football team either, but they're just a less bad football team than Miami. But at the end of the day, a win is a win. I am not only someone who covers the team, I'm a Titans fan. I don't try to hide that in any way. That is what I am. And seeing them go out and finally win a ball game, not drop to 0-4, beat a team that they should beat, even though it's on the road, score over 30 points. All those things feel great. And, you know, 1-3 is a very difficult hole to dig out of, but it's not impossible. So it at least gives the Titans a little bit of hope heading into the bye week.
We don't have to go into like the drama of what's going to happen next at quarterback, but Mason Rudolph did come in 9 of 17 for 85 yards. Didn't kill them in this game. What did you see from Mason?
Well, exactly that. And that is all the Titans have needed. Honestly, the Titans would probably be 2-2 right now. As you know, Pete, they would not have beaten the Green Bay Packers no matter if Jesus played quarterback.
Oh, the record be with Malik Willis, Ty? Just wondering.
Well, Malik Willis with Green Bay's coaching or Malik Willis with Tennessee's offensive line and coaching. Those are two different Malik Willises. But yeah, I think that Mason Rudolph, this is why I think that Mason Rudolph is one of the better backups in the league. No, it's not beautiful. He's a backup quarterback. He's not a good starter. This isn't like Gardner Minshew, who can kind of be a starter for you if you need. No, Mason Rudolph is a certified backup quarterback, but backup should come in and not kill you. Operate the offense. The Titans gave up 8 sacks against the Packers, only 1 against the Dolphins. And once Will Levis went out of the game, no turnovers for the Titans offense. So just don't shoot yourself in the foot, and you're going to beat a team that you should beat. And that's exactly what Mason Rudolph did. Relied on the run game, relied on the defense. It's an ugly way to play football, but it is a winning way to play football when you're the better football team. So Mason Rudolph, again, he's a backup. We're not going to pretend like, and even he said it after the game. Mason Rudolph's like, I didn't do anything special. You know, I got to give credit to the O-line and the backs and the game plan. Like, but that is what you want your quarterback to do. Come in if your quarterback gets hurt for a couple quarters. Come in for a couple of weeks if your quarterback goes out, like a Malik Willis did in Green Bay. Just hold down the fort, steer the ship on the way. That's all you need to do. And Mason Rudolph deserves his credit for not hurting the team, which is something that the starting quarterback had done consistently 4 weeks in a row now.
It says something about where Will Levis is, that he only threw 4 passes and still could not avoid being a meme this week.
I mean, it's incredible. He's on the sideline basically crying from the shoulder injury. We don't know exactly what's going on there. The Titans do have a bye next week, so that should help Will Levis get ready to play, and we'll go there now. I mean, Brian Callahan said after the game, Will Levis is the starter going forward, and like I said on Locked On NFL with Bryce Young, that's what the Titans need to do, because what's the difference between Mason Rudolph and Will Levis? A win? 2 wins? You know, at the end of the day, Mason Rudolph, this isn't a playoff team with Mason Rudolph. You know, like the Titans are going to win, 5 or 6 games with Mason Rudolph, maybe 3 or 4 with Will Levis. At the end of the day, finding out, really, really giving Will Levis a full season to see what happens. And if he leads you to a tank, well, then he leads you to a better draft pick in a draft class that is kind of top heavy with not a very good middle class in the first round. So you don't want to be past the 10th or 11th pick in this first round. So no matter what happens in Tennessee or what happens with Mason Rudolph, Will Levis needs to be the starting quarterback through the whole season. And then we can have conversations after the year about what they do next.
Stay up to date on the Tennessee Titans all year long by subscribing to Locked On Sports Today and Locked On Titans on your favorite podcast app and on YouTube. Coming up, the Mets are back in the postseason. The New York Mets are finally back in the playoffs. The Mets came into Monday's doubleheader with the Braves needing a win to clinch and escaped Game 1 with a thrilling victory. Locked On Mets host Ryan Finkelstein broke down the chaotic finish.
And with me today, I got my dad. We're celebrating. I got the champagne right here. Why don't you just say what's up to the people while I take a nice little swig?
All right, everybody in Met World, we did it. And I will say that I had to take one for the team, and I had to switch off my TV and go into the computer, and I had a couple phone calls that I was on. So out of the corner of my eye, I'm watching this game unfold. Really pissed off, that whole roller coaster ride that we all get ups and downs. There we go again. I mean, it was amazing that inning, the 6-run inning. I didn't even get to kind of watch it and totally embrace it and enjoy it. So that was kind of sad. And then when Diaz came in and blew it, I was like, holy cow, are you kidding me? And then Lindor, what a beautiful thing. Woo!
I'll tell you what, this speaks to the superstitions that all fans go through, because I talked to my dad at about 2:30, and he had the reason why we're watching the game together today is he had those calls at like 3 and 3:30. So I told him, why don't you start those meetings? I feel like once you're in the calls, we're going to start to see some magic. And that's when the 6-run inning happened, right around when he's in his first call. I also did a little bit of a switch up on my own. I was watching it in my office here, and my wife works remote on Mondays. So I just made the decision, I'm going to go back out. I needed some consoling. So I watched the game with her. She's not even a big baseball fan at all. She's a Mets fan because of me. She got in it. Dad, just to let you know, Leah's a Mets fan now. She was anxious. She was nervous. She was really going through it with me. Unbelievable.
It is good to see the Mets on this side of a dramatic ending. Usually, it is a breathtakingly painful way to watch their season end. Whether it's being a heavy favorite and losing in the postseason to what we assumed was an inferior baseball team, or blowing in inglorious fashion a seemingly unblowable late season lead in the standings. That's what we're used to seeing from the New York Mets. Not this, where it looks over. It looks over. It looks so over, and then they are so back. In addition to being incredible, of course, to feel this way if you're a Mets fan, it also has to feel a little weird. They're not used to this. And finally, Bronny James has no interest in driving to work with his dad. It has to be pretty amazing to know that you're LeBron James, and just by virtue of being a dad, you're not cool to someone.
Bronny, are you guys going to be like commuting together, or any, like you and your dad? Like, do you know any of that? You're going to sync up your rides to and from practice or anything like that?
Definitely not. It's already so much that we've been grouped together as. I'd like to stay as away as possible from that guy. Appreciate you.
If you're catching this episode after hearing your favorite Locked On show, make sure to subscribe to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts so you never miss an episode. Also, if you're a new subscriber to Locked On Sports Today, we're here for you with the biggest stories in sports every day. Coming up on the next Locked On Sports Today, can the Chicago Bears with Caleb Williams take advantage of their upcoming schedule? So at least until tomorrow, stay locked on sports today.
Locked On Podcast Network presents Locked On Sports Today.
go to our video on demand. Click on Sports at the top of your screen. There, you'll find past episodes of Locked On Sports Today, plus other Locked On shows on demand.